All right, everybody. So we're going to get started with the webinar here. So this is actually an online information session. If you weren't here a few minutes ago, again, my name's David Altman. I'm one of the assistant directors of admissions here at CGU. I'm joined by my colleague Jeremy McWells, who will jump on in a second. Before we get started, I just wanted to let everybody know that the functionality of Zoom is such that if you don't have yourself muted, if you happen to make a noise or a noise happens around you, the microphone will pick that up and send it to everybody. I'm just going to ask everyone to put their computer or their phone on mute right now. That way everybody can just hear what Jeremy and I have to say. So thank you. Jeremy, you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. How's everyone doing? Thank you guys for joining us. For a lot of you all, it's your lunch break. For some of you all, it's the middle of the day for you. You guys could be doing anything else. So we really appreciate you guys coming on. And we really, truly believe that we have some information here that's really going to help you out with filling out your online application and just throughout the whole entire admission process here at CGU. I'm going to throw it back to David so you can get us started here.
Yeah, great. So just to quickly cover what we're going to cover in this information session. So we're going to start by talking about the admissions process at CGU. Jeremy's going to take some time to kind of go in depth about some of the different steps that you would want to take as a potential applicant. Some of the things that you can do as just somebody that might be, gathering information about CGU, figuring out if Claremont, has the right things to offer you as a potential home for graduate study. After that, we'll transition and I'll talk about the CGU application itself, what goes into the application, some of the things that are required for different programs. I'll also give a brief example of how one goes about writing a statement of purpose at CGU, which kind of also ties into the Claremont fit. I'll also touch upon kind of what really makes CGU unique and why it might be a great place for you to potentially do graduate study. And then we'll conclude with insider tips and helpful resources. In that section, we'll also share all of the contact information for our colleagues that are in the specific areas that you might be interested in. So moving on, the admissions process at CGU. Jeremy, you want to take it away?
Absolutely. So the admission process here at CGU, let's go on to the next slide. So there are a few deadlines that everyone should be aware of. Most importantly, the spring deadline, which is November 1st of this particular year. For those of you who might be interested in fall or summer, just to let you guys know, there is a closer intake deadline for a lot of our programs, for all of our programs. And once again, that's November 1st. So if you happen to be thinking fall or summer, but maybe you want to get the process started a little bit earlier, please feel free to contact your admission representative and see if you have a spring intake. We also have rolling admission, which directly affects any of our priority deadlines. So we have our priority deadlines and then we have rolling admissions. Really the difference is we have specific rounds at specific times throughout the year for our intakes, for our mass reviews. And so for the priority deadline, that's like the first round, right? And then rolling admissions really just says to the student that, hey, we're willing to work with you guys all the way up until we really can't anymore. So we really try to do what we can to assist the student, maybe for the student who hadn't heard of us until kind of the last stretch of time for the admission cycle, or the student who, it didn't work out with one school and maybe now we're on the next in terms of the list of priority for that student. So we want to just make sure that we make ourselves available for every single type of student. We understand a lot of us went to grad school and are in grad school right now. So we just want to make sure that we are as flexible as we possibly can. The biggest takeaway from understanding the deadlines and how they work, and even with rolling admission, is to not procrastinate. Don't stress out, okay? Because the longer you wait to turn in your materials, the more you're going to be stressed out, the more I'm going to be stressed for you. And I'm just trying to make sure, and me, David, and everybody else on the team just wants to make sure that this is going to be an easy process for you, that this is going to be as stress-free as possible. Obviously, there's so many planning advantages to making sure that your online application is filled out and submitted, and the items are submitted in a timely fashion, okay? Going on to the next slide here. And this ties into what I was going over the slide before, the admission sequence. There's a big secret here when it comes to the application at CGU, is that you can fill out the application first to meet the deadlines and submit the items later. So for instance, if you're going to be submitting a master's application for the master's in econ, you can just fill out the application, which takes anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes if you're, if you're dealing with normal circumstances, I would say. Mm-hmm. And then at that later, at a later time, maybe you collect certain letters of recommendation, or you go to get help with a statement of purpose. You get that reviewed and edited. And then let's say in a couple weeks or a week or a few days even, you can submit those items after the priority deadline or that specific round of deadline. You can submit those later and still have that priority status on your file. Usually in terms of a turnaround time, we try to make it as fast as possible. So just know that that's the big secret. As long as that online application is in first, you're really good to go. Your status will be of a priority within our system, so you're fine. When it comes to the academic merit fellowships, it's something that's a huge help. I'm currently almost done with my master's program, my MBA. And so I know for my particular program that I go to another institution, I didn't get any fellowship or scholarship at all. For me, a lot of it was just loans. And thank God my wife works at the school, so I was able to get the tuition remission. So that was great. But, without that, I would have had just to rely on loans. And so the great thing that we have here at CGUs, we have that academic merit fellowship that assists in paying with tuition for our students here. And there's no additional application required. The same as you're going through the admission process, as the faculty are looking to give you a decision, they're also looking to allocate the correct amount of funds that they see fit to your particular application. So you don't need to fill out 2 applications or anything like that, which is really, really nice. We all know that, we are all busy. A lot of you all are students and wrapping up programs, and a lot of you all are working professionals, have family and other obligations. And so we just want to make sure that this process for you is as beneficial and as timely for you as possible. Speaking of timely, the timeline for a turnaround decision is usually 2 to 4 weeks. And like I said, we really try to push the faculty to make a decision just in a timely fashion. Like I said, we understand that when we go past that 4-week mark, 5-week mark, 6-week mark, we want to make sure that you guys are engaged and you guys are getting the information as soon as you can so you guys can make the best decision for you. And the advantages of really going through this whole entire process, obviously the timing is huge, but the depositing as well. The 2 to 4 week window gives you enough time to also figure out, okay, if I get accepted, this is the depositing amount, I can work with this, and I can deposit right after I get my admissions decision. The faster you go, and I mean, the more timely that you are on your guys' side, you become a priority to the faculty, and you show that you're serious about this process as well. So let's go into the roles of the admission representative. So you might see a lot of emails and communication, text, whatever, phone calls from the assistant directors of admission for each particular school and program division. And so really our role is to advocate for you. We are kind of the middlemen and women in this whole entire process. So just look at it like this. It's you, the student, it's us, and then there's faculty. We all have to work together to make sure that we're getting the information to one another in a timely fashion. And so me and David, we were once upon a time ago, undergraduate admission counselors at that time. And so we made the decisions for all of our applications. And that is not the case anymore with graduate admissions. The faculty always have the last say. We can always put a bug in the ear of the faculty member. We can put a good word in, give our perspective on you as a student, but that's about it. And so we can do all that we can, but just please understand that the faculty have the last say in the decision-making process. But we can definitely be your advocate. We can definitely be your biggest, tool in when it comes to resources during this entire admission process. So please take advantage of us as we go forward here. A lot of us give out text or cell phone numbers. So if you need to call after hours or text after hours, look into that with each particular representative. Everyone's a little different, but we are here for you throughout this whole entire process. The tips in terms of what works really well for all of us across the board, communication is key. Just like in any relationship, friendship, partnership, communication is the most important. I tell my students for politics, econ, and international studies, look, we're going to be best friends for this whole entire process. That means you're going to be checking on me. I'm going to be checking on you. We're going to ask how our families are doing, the whole nine, because that's the level of communication that we need to make sure that you get your decision and are prepared for the next steps to come. And so the communication is a big, big takeaway, you guys. Questions on the material. So if you have any questions on personal statement length, letters of recommendation type, anything like that, we can help you out with that. So please send those questions to us. We can help with that. And some of us, will, be able to answer that via email, text, like I said, phone call. It just really depends on that particular representative. And campus visits. please come out. If you guys are in the area, if you guys are local, if you guys are flying out, maybe have some other business in Southern California, wherever you're coming from, please try to make some time to visit the campus. This is how we can meet face to face. You can also get, a sense of the culture here at CGU, and the sense of the culture here at Claremont too. And so if you haven't been to the area, I definitely strongly encourage that, because overall, this could help you meet a faculty member, meet a stakeholder that has a lot to do with your success here at CGU. Once a faculty member is able to put a face to the name, now you're reaching the next stage, the next level of potentially getting a positive review when it comes to your application decision. Interactions, so class previews and attending events. Class previews, for some it may work, for some it may not. We understand that everyone is busy, and so maybe those morning classes, those evening classes, or those afternoon classes, maybe they don't work for you in your current schedule, or maybe you're too far. We understand that. The class preview is excellent in terms of if you want to see, really get behind the curtain here and see exactly how classes is taught here at CGU. Obviously, we're a research-based institution, and so classes might go a little bit differently. And we also have, very small classrooms here. And so there's a lot of conversation and collaboration that takes place. And so if you really want to get behind the curtain and see all that, the class preview is really a great way to check that out. Attending events will probably be the easier way to check out the culture here at CGU. We have our fall open house, which is coming up November 3rd. If you have not signed up for that, please get in the chat and ask me for some information. I can send you guys the link. So once again, if you have not signed up for our November 3rd fall open house event, please send me your email on the chat, and I'm helping planning that, so I can send that out for you, no problem. And maybe even I can call you and I can sign you up there if you just don't have the time, whatever that is. So events like these, and for fall open house, we're doing something a little different versus doing the typical student or alumni panel. We're having our very well-known, globally known faculty members come and do about 10 to 15 minutes of TED Talks. So we're having about 3 to 4. And then right after that, there'll be a networking lunch that you'll be able to meet those faculty members, talk to them, share information. There'll be free food. There'll be a lot of different stakeholders on campus that day. So this is really a great event if you're in that area to attend. And if you can't make that one, don't worry. There are future events similar that you can always attend. Let's talk about the strong applicant qualities, okay? And so I always go back to David because he coined this term. Having a personal intellectual vision, just understanding what exactly you want to get from this entire process. I think that's huge. Knowing your major and kind of what your program, your concentration, what you want to do with that, how long you want to stay at CGU, all of those things go to the personal intellectual vision, right? And so if you know that ahead of time, we can connect you to the department, to the person that can help you out with that, because we all know that you want to get the degree, get out of here in a decent amount of time, get the financial funding that you need, and make sure that this whole situation here at CGU is as comfortable for you and your family and your loved ones as possible. We understand that. So by having that personal intellectual vision, that really, really is the first step to all of this. The knowledgeable student is the best student. So the student who is aware and very knowledgeable about the faculty research, pairing him or herself up with a faculty member to communicate with and to, hopefully eventually, learn under, that's key as well. If you even, and this is a little cheat code, little hack here for the application for the statement of purpose. If you name drop one of the faculty members that you're looking forward to working with potentially, that's great. Faculty, when it comes to their research and talking to them about their research and acknowledging their research, is like a parent with a kid. They love talking about, their children, right? I think we probably have some parents here on the webinar. You can talk about your kids for days. Same thing for me. And so the faculty members, they can talk about their research forever. So if you name drop within your personal statement, don't tell anybody I told you this, but that's going to be a great way. That's going to be a great way to really garner some attention there from the faculty members. The CGU culture, like I said, goes back to, going into a class preview or attending an event. Or even if, like I said, if you're international or if you can't make it out that particular event or day, checking out our YouTube page, our social media, getting a sense of the culture through those media platforms and online. That always helps, right? We have different talks and lectures that are online on our YouTube page that you can check out, and that can give you the dose of culture from CGU standpoint, as much as you possibly can get, if you're international or if you're not in that area. Field experience. So this is an interesting topic here in terms of what is good to come in with. I get this a lot. So, research and professional experience. Maybe you're an undergrad that just finished his or her senior thesis and it relates directly to what you want to study. I mean, that's great. Or maybe if you're a working professional and haven't been in school for a little while, but what you do on a daily basis in the field relates directly to what you want to apply for in terms of the program. And so either or is great to bring to the table. Either or is accepted by faculty, and either or will get you, that much closer to a successful review. It's a great benefit to have research and professional experience. And if you have both, that's even better. Awesome. I'm going to pass it to David so he can go into the application process.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Jeremy. So a lot of what Jeremy talked about there kind of feeds into the application itself. But let's go over what those application materials are that one would need to apply to a CGU program. So on the top here, I've listed out all of the required application items regardless of program. So like Jeremy mentioned, there's the online application form. Go into any page on CGU's website. At the top, you'll see a link that says apply. Click on that. That takes you to the online application form. That's a great place to start. Submit that, get it in, and get the rest of your documents in. Like Jeremy said, that's the CGU secret. That helps streamline this process, so go ahead and follow those steps. There's an application fee. Thanks for joining us today on the webinar. If you stick around to the end of the webinar, we'll actually be providing an application fee waiver code. So do stick around for the next few minutes here as I go through a few more of these slides, and then we'll save you the $80 or however many dollars it might be for the application fee for your program. We do require official transcripts for each and every CGU program. If you're going to come here and enroll, the registrar's office needs your official transcripts from any previous institution attended on file. That's purely because we get audited regularly from our accrediting agency. I will tell you another CGU secret, though. During the review process here, if you would like to simply upload your unofficial transcripts because you have easier access to them or because your previous institution charges you a fee to have official transcripts sent out, go ahead and upload the unofficial ones to your application for review. If you decide to come to CGU and enroll, then I would go ahead and request the official transcripts, have those sent here, and at that point spend the fee that might be associated with that. So that's another minor CGU secret for all of you joining us today. Every single program at CGU is going to ask for a resume or a CV. I would recommend checking in with your admissions representative to see which format's preferred for a given program or given your level of experience in a particular field. So go ahead and check in with us on that. And for those of you that are joining us from abroad, we do require English proficiency exams. It's either the IELTS or the TOEFL score. Check out the international applicants page on our website, though, because there are a few countries where the language of instruction is still English and you're exempt from that requirement. So do check that out if you're a student abroad. And so now going into some of the program-dependent items. Official test scores, this is going to, again, be entirely dependent on the program that you're interested in. Some programs are test optional. Some programs don't require a test at all. Others do require the GRE or the GMAT. So again, go to the application guidelines page on our website for your particular program or reach out to your admissions representative and find out for sure what test scores may or may not be required for the program that you're interested in. I list letters of recommendation as a program-dependent item purely because the amount of letters of recommendation that you need to submit might change program to program, but every single program at CGU is going to require letters of recommendation in some form. Usually it's 2 or 3, but again, check the app guidelines page or check in with your admissions representative just to make sure that you know exactly how many letters you need sent on your behalf. Personal statement, statement of purpose. Sometimes this is also called an artist statement. Basically, this is what Jeremy was talking about. It's a clear articulation of your own personal intellectual vision. A lot of it has to do with fit. I'm actually going to do an example of this right after this slide to just briefly kind of show how this works. I think it really feeds in, though, to the idea of understanding the CGU culture and understanding the faculty members that you want to work with or the different things that your particular program might be looking for. So that example is to come. A creative sample, this is usually a writing sample or a sample of your business acumen or a project that you've done. Again, it changes program to program, but find out what they're looking for to kind of demonstrate your skill set as it already exists in that field. And now there are some programs also that don't require a creative sample, so keep an eye out for those as well. And then we have a handful of programs at CGU as well that require an interview or an audition. So definitely make sure you know about that well in advance because it's going to call for you either coming to campus or getting on a Zoom interview or sending in materials via other channels. So make sure you've kind of got all of your ducks lined up in a row there as far as some of the program dependent items are concerned. And make sure you're utilizing Jeremy, myself, and our colleagues in terms of any questions you might have here. And as I transition into this next slide about a statement of purpose example, I also wanted to just pause briefly and let you all know we will stick around for some Q&A at the end here. There's a chat feature within Zoom that you can all utilize. Jeremy's monitoring it right now off to the side here, so feel free to start typing those in if you want, but we'll get to them once we wrap up all of the PowerPoint slides. So going into a quick example of kind of how the CGU fit, the CGU culture plays into a statement of purpose, I put a slide here for our teacher education program. This is actually the mission statement of the teacher education program at CGU. So it's to provide a socially just education. We need teachers deeply committed to academic excellence, equity, and integrity, who will work diligently to develop the skills and attitudes necessary to teach every child as though they were teaching their own. Now, this is very specific to teacher education, and I know not everybody on this webinar is interested in the program, though it is definitely an excellent program that we offer here. The reason I bring it up is because on this next slide, you'll see there are 3 things that the teacher education program specifically asks based on this mission statement. Now, whether it's a mission statement or just kind of the department's motto or the department's research interest, every single program at CGU, every single department has a clear-cut focus, or the researchers that, are faculty members in that program have a clear-cut focus, and you're going to want that to be addressed in your statement of purpose. They're going to want to see that you understand why you're applying to CGU, that it's not just another school on your list, that you've put in a lot of thought about why the research or work that you want to do in grad school can be done here at CGU. So for teacher education, in their statement of purpose, they ask these specific 3 prompts based on that mission statement that was just given. So they're going to ask you to describe how your personal and educational background has shaped your desire to be a teacher. They're going to ask you to explain why you think this program is the best fit for you given what you know about that mission statement that we all just read. And they're going to ask what personal assets, intellectual, linguistic, physical, or spiritual, will you bring with you to the challenge of teaching culturally and linguistically diverse students. Now, again, this is super specific to teacher education, and I don't want anybody on the webinar to think that this is what every single statement of purpose should look like. But talking about your personal and educational background, explaining why you think the program is a great fit, describing what personal assets you're bringing to the table here, and like Jeremy said, really speaking to the faculty researchers or the faculty who do work in your field and having a clear understanding of why they're doing that work and how it relates to your own, that's universal for any statement of purpose of CGU. Being able to articulate these things clearly, that's what the personal and intellectual vision is. And I want to thank Heidi Martinez, who's our Assistant Director of Admissions for the teacher education program, for giving me these couple of slides here and allowing me to kind of show how this is just one example of how a good statement of purpose should look for really any CGU program. And if you are interested in the teacher education program, hopefully this was helpful to you as well. So moving on to the Claremont fit, hopefully this will kind of help feed into a lot of what I was just saying and what Jeremy's been saying. So a lot of you on this webinar might not be familiar with the Claremont Colleges, which is actually the larger consortium that Claremont Graduate University is a member institution of. Along with CGU, there are 6 other institutions that make up the Claremont Colleges. Pomona College, Pitzer College, Harvey Mudd College, Scripps College, and Claremont McKenna College are all liberal arts undergraduate institutions. A lot of them have programs that cross over with ours, which is great because you can actually take advantage of their faculty members for coursework and independent studies. They can also sit on dissertation and theses committees. So they really provide a great added resource for our students. I'll also talk about some of the other larger shared resources that exist for all students in Claremont, whether they're graduate or undergraduates. CGU and Keck Graduate Institute are the 2 graduate-only institutions here in Claremont. CGU tends to focus on more of the liberal arts disciplines. We also have the School of Management, School of Social Science Policy Evaluation, our Center for Information Systems and Technology. So we kind of cover those areas. Keck Graduate Institute, or KGI for short, they tend to cover the applied life sciences. They're also opening up a med school soon. And I think they have a Doctor of Pharmacy program as well. So the graduate-only advantage, the top 10 reasons to apply to CGU. I'm going to jump ahead to point number 2, the Claremont Advantage, while we were still talking about the Claremont colleges. So what the Claremont Advantage is, besides the shared resources in terms of faculty, the library here in Claremont is actually the 3rd largest private college library in the state of California, right behind Stanford and USC. That serves all 7 institutions. It's close to 3 million volumes in print. It's a member of 2 different interlibrary loan systems, and the grad students here in Claremont actually have more extensive research privileges within the library. So that's a huge resource. There are a ton of multicultural organizations that exist across the colleges, so that's a great student resource. Health services, mental health services, disability services, campus safety, all of these things are shared. As a CGU student, you get access to the different fitness centers at the undergraduate colleges. You have discounted rates at the dining halls at those schools. So that kind of all comes together to make this really excellent Claremont advantage there. Claremont's also a wonderful town. Like Jeremy mentioned, it's also worth getting to know Claremont as a space, not just Claremont Graduate University as an institution. The town's been built up around the colleges, essentially. Pomona College, which is the founding member of the Claremont Colleges, was literally founded in 1887, the same year as the town of Claremont. And there's a really nice symbiotic relationship between the town and the colleges. If you go into the village where all the shops and restaurants are in Claremont, 9 times out of 10, if you listen to the conversations going on around you, they are very intellectual, very focused on things that you yourself might be interested in. So that's really the Claremont advantage. Jumping back up to point number 1, transdisciplinary studies. This is actually the core pedagogy of CGU. We really embrace transdisciplinary studies in every area. And to briefly describe how transdisciplinary studies differs from maybe interdisciplinary studies is oftentimes taking disciplines that have a logical point at which they intersect, or kind of points at which they go into dialogue with one another. What transdisciplinary studies does is takes that a step further and puts disciplines that oftentimes don't engage with one another at all and puts them into dialogue with one another. So there's a whole office here on CGU's campus that oversees the transdisciplinary studies program. They offer specific courses that touch on different disciplines, which is nice. And our faculty members really embrace this as well. So if your research project has a home, let's say in the Division of Politics and Economics, Jeremy's area, right? But you really want to do some psychology courses to kind of feed into that, you can take those psych courses. Or let's say you want to do a management course because you're going to take your econ degree and you think you're going to start a nonprofit, right? And you want just a little bit of management experience. You can go and take that management course. That's all part of the transdisciplinary conversation that's constantly happening here in Claremont. So jumping now to point number 3, and Jeremy mentioned this earlier in relation to our upcoming open house event on November 3rd, which again, I really would encourage all of you that are close enough to the area to attend. The world-renowned faculty here in Claremont are experts in their field. They're frequently featured in the media, on the news. You'll see some familiar faces more than likely if you do come to the open house. I know that a bunch of the speakers we've got planned are some of the more prominent faculty members, even among what is already a very large pool of prominent faculty members across disciplines here at CGU. So you're going to be working with some of the best. That's what that point is to speak to. You're going to be working with them now to point number 4, within an intimate learning environment. I think the last time I checked, the average class size here is somewhere around 12 or 15 students. So it's a small seminar setting. Your professors are going to know you. They're going to know your face. They're going to know your work. So it's a really excellent opportunity to network with people, not just your faculty, but also your peers who will one day become maybe prominent faculty members in their own right, or prominent entrepreneurs, or who knows what they may go on to do. But that is also kind of a network you're plugging into because of the learning environment here in Claremont. You're not just stuck in a lecture hall with a bunch of people that you'll never actually intimately interact with. While you're doing all of this, you're more than likely going to be in a nationally recognized or specialized program. CGU has, a prime example of this. We have the only doctoral program in positive psychology in the country. We have a bunch of ranked programs that are recognized in, I think, pretty much every single area of the university at this point. So there's no academic unit that isn't kind of renowned in some area. In terms of specialized programs, this actually feeds into point number 6 about practice-based learning. A lot of our specialized programs actually involve going out into the field. So I do admissions for the School of Arts and Humanities. We have an applied women's studies program, which, while absolutely a humanities program, does take students out of the classroom. There's a required internship component. That teacher education program that I just highlighted also has an internship and practicum component built into it. So many of the programs that you would go through here at CGU will not only give you a great classroom education, but will also give you tools that you can take out into the world and that you can take and actually, build networks outside of CGU too, which is great. All of this, the classroom experience, the out of classroom experience, the faculty, the learning environment, all of this feeds into points number 7 and 8, which is that CGU students become meaningfully employed. Not just that they get out of here, they get a job, they're able to sustain themselves. More often than not, we speak with our alumni, which ties into point number 8, that alumni network. We speak with our alumni, and they're doing work that they actually take genuine meaning in doing. They find that they enjoy the work that they do, that they take a lot from it, and that their CGU education really feeds into that experience for them. which is why with our 22,000 strong alumni network, if you reach out to a CGU alum and you say, hey, I just graduated from CGU, I'm looking to get into a field similar to yours, can we talk? 9 times out of 10, that alum's going to want to talk to you. They're going to want to hear from you because that's what CGU is. We're a family. We really take that approach because we're small, and you really get to plug into that. I will briefly say, though, that in terms of just not only CGU's alumni network, but the larger Claremont alumni network, that is a substantial alumni network. The undergraduate colleges that I mentioned here in Claremont, just like CGU, they're all prestigious. They're all nationally recognized and regarded as some of the best schools in the country. So you are really plugging into a truly powerful alumni network here. In terms of point number 9, all graduate all the time, this is one thing I really do always like to kind of pause and dwell on. While there are a bunch of shared resources here in Claremont that are fantastic and make CGU an excellent place to come and study, we are, at the end of the day, a graduate-only institution, and that also offers certain advantages to you as a student. Primarily among these are things like our career development office, our preparing future faculty workshop program, our Center for Writing and Rhetoric. These are things that are only available to the graduate students here in Claremont, and they're things that are directly related to what you would be doing in grad school. The career development office, where at a large research institution, it might be splitting its time between grad students and undergraduate students. Here, they're only focused on the types of jobs and careers that master's students and doctoral students would be pursuing. And they understand what those job searches look like, and they understand how to coach you through that process, and also how to provide you with more specific resources that are tailored to that environment. Similarly, the Preparing Future Faculty Workshop Program, which is built into the cost of tuition at CGU, you can do it kind of at your own pace through your actual coursework. That's going to give you a certificate in college teaching where, even if your end goal isn't to necessarily become a tenured faculty member, if you want to go and teach as an adjunct at a community college or a nearby 4-year institution, that credential helps you, get into that. And it's something that is very much tailored to what most grad students think they might want to do at some point. And then, similarly, the Center for Writing and Rhetoric, again, they're only working with grad students. They're working with people on their thesis, on their seminar papers, on their dissertation. They're coaching you through all of the different phases of that, which if you're in a larger research setting where there's undergrads and grad students combined, a lot of times, the Center for Writing and Rhetoric or the Writing Center, whatever it may be, they're primarily focused on the undergrads. They're not really giving a lot of help to the grad students because they think they've already got that skill set developed. Here we understand that, that doesn't just stop at undergrad, that you can always be working on your writing. And to finally just conclude this graduate-only advantage slide here, the energetic location, I think Jeremy and I have touched upon Claremont as a town a bunch throughout this presentation, but I will also mention that it's only 35 miles away from downtown Los Angeles, which allows our students in terms of finding those internship or employment opportunities or finding opportunities to just network in their field. I mean, there's literally only one city bigger in the United States than Los Angeles. So it's a worthwhile place to be, not only because Claremont's an excellent place to study, but because you get to take advantage of a location that opens up even more doors than that. So moving on now to some of our insider tips and helpful resources. This is where you'll also get the contact information for your specific admissions representative. So Jeremy highlighted some dates at the beginning. I'm also going to highlight some final deadlines here. So he highlighted the priority deadlines. We always encourage people to apply by these deadlines. It just ensures that you're among the first applications read by the faculty. But that said, we know those deadlines don't work for everybody, and we have rolling admissions like Jeremy mentioned. So these are the final deadlines that you must meet in order to be considered for a given semester. So if you're interested in spring 2019 and are an international student, it's December 1st of this year. If you're a domestic student, January 4th, 2019. If you're interested in summer 2019, as an international student, your final deadline's April 1st. That's primarily to cover visa issues and things like that. And then May 1st for domestic students. And then finally, if you're interested in fall 2019, it's July 5th for the international students and August 15th for those that are here in the U.S. And then you'll see that our summer and fall courses have yet to be determined in terms of when their start date will be, but spring courses start on January 22nd, so do keep that in mind. So moving on now to some insider tips here. A lot of this is kind of repetitive of things that Jeremy and I have mentioned earlier in this presentation, but that's because we think that they're very important. So number one, connect with current students and alumni. You can do this one of two ways. Utilize your admissions representative, contact us. We know a bunch of current students and alumni that would be happy to talk with you. The other thing I always recommend people do here though, take advantage of social media. LinkedIn's a great tool, Facebook's a great tool. Find our current students and alumni on there. see if they'd be willing to talk to you about their experience. It's always good to get more opinions on a place that you're considering for yourself. Jeremy mentioned this a bunch. I mentioned this a bunch. Research the faculty. It really is like their kids in terms of what they're doing as far as work or research is concerned. So knowing them, name dropping them in your statement of purpose, these are important things. You can actually reach out to the faculty members at CGU as well. Their information is listed on their faculty bios on our website. More often than not, they'll get back to you and be happy to learn that you're a prospective student and that you're interested in working with them. So this is another great tip. Again, if they get your application and you've already emailed them and they know your name, that just gives you that much more of an advantage. So research them, reach out to them. If you don't feel comfortable facilitating that conversation, but you want to speak with them, reach out to your admissions representative and we can help you out with that as well. Observe classes. This is kind of a unique thing that CGU makes available to prospective students because I know a lot of other institutions aren't able to do this for whatever reason, but here at CGU, you can come to campus and observe classes during the semester. So again, reach out to Jeremy, myself, or our colleagues and find out how you can get one of those set up. It's the best way, honestly, to figure out if the CGU learning environment is what you were looking for. And then finally, and I've been saying this a bunch, Jeremy's been saying it a bunch, but utilize us. Utilize your admissions representatives. So without further ado, let's meet your admissions representatives. So if you're interested in the Drucker School of Management, which is our MBA or our Executive MBA, our Master's in Management, it also includes our Financial Engineering, Math, and Marketing Analytics programs. You're either going to be working with Nick Lopez or Alice Liu, who are both Assistant Directors of Admissions. Again, take their contact information down. It's also listed on the website, though. Alice and Nick would love to hear from you guys, so reach out to them, contact them, and get in touch. For the School of Educational Studies, so whether that's the MA or PhD in education, or you're interested in one of our teacher education programs, I mentioned Heidi Martinez, who's Assistant Director of Admissions for the teacher education program. Her colleague is Rachel Camacho, who's Associate Director of Admissions. Rachel is the person, for those of you interested in the MA or PhD in education, she's the one you would want to seek out. That's me. Hi, everybody. I'm David Altman again. So I'm Assistant Director of Admissions for the School of Arts and Humanities. So that includes art, music, applied women's studies, history, English, religion, and cultural studies. My contact information will also be on the last slide, so I won't dwell on my face too long. Thanks for laughing, Jeremy. Suzanne Abel-Nasser is our newest Assistant Director of Admissions. She oversees admissions for the public health programs within the School of Community and Global Health. Suzanne's so new, though, that we haven't gotten a photo for her yet. So that's a CGU logo for those of you that didn't know what it looked like, or one form of the logo. But feel free to reach out to Suzanne with any questions you might have about the public health programs here. Hey, Jeremy, there's your face. So that's Jeremy McWells. He's Assistant Director of Admissions for Economics, Global Commerce and Finance, International Studies, Politics, and then Public Policy and Evaluation. His colleague within the School of Social Science, Policy and Evaluation is Matthew Gold, who again is an Assistant Director of Admissions. Matthew Gold, he does admissions for psychology, evaluation, and then human resource management. So get in touch with either Matthew or Jeremy if you've got questions about those programs. For the Center for Information Systems and Technology, you would be working with Heather Reynolds, who is, again, as an Assistant Director of Admissions. So any program within CISAT, as it's kind of colloquially known, feel free to reach out to Heather. And then lastly, and I mentioned this before, submit your free application now by the priority deadline. You have the fee waiver code there. It's 19 CGU. That'll work for spring, summer, and fall 2019 applications. And when you go into the application, make sure you not only say, yes, I'm applying with a fee waiver code, but you also go in there and type in this fee waiver code. Had some people get hung up on that in the past. And again, there's Jeremy and I's contact information. We're going to give the rest of our time to the Q&A, so now's the time to use the chat feature. Jeremy, got any good questions at this point?
Not as of yet. So, guys, I mean, we're waiting for some questions. Maybe we can kind of come up with some of our own at this point.
Yeah, so a question we often get asked is, what's the average GRE score or GMAT score or whatever standardized test score that may be? The truth of the matter is CGU admissions is done on a holistic basis. So that means that there are really, there's no minimum score. I can say that with certainty. And in terms of an average score, again, that it's very much subject to change because you might have lower GRE scores, but your writing sample and your statement of purpose just knock it out of the water so the faculty disregard that. Or, maybe you've got lower GMAT scores, but you just kill it with your Drucker interview for the MBA program. Again, that overlooks it. So there's no minimum test score for sure. In terms of averages, I think it's just better to think of it in terms of like my overall application needs to be particularly strong. So if I'm lacking in one area, go ahead and make sure the other areas are strengthened as a result of that. And those written materials are things that you can work with your admissions representative on strengthening. We can only give you so much coaching on a standardized test or something like that, but we can definitely coach you up on your statement of purpose or your writing sample or something along those lines. So let's see, we are getting some other questions in here, which is great. Thank you all. So how long does the MA in education take? Typically speaking, the MA in education is a 2 to 2.5 year program. It really just depends on whether or not you're enrolled full or part-time. And it's worth noting that a lot of the programs at CGU do allow students to enroll part-time. So that's always a worthwhile question to ask as well. So another great question here, and again, keep them coming, everybody. Jeremy and I are happy to answer these. So I have questions about funding. This person asks, is there a deadline for fellowships? I'm interested in the cultural studies program and know who I want to work with. And yes, absolutely. I'll follow up with you at the end of this. And again, feel free to email me right now while I'm giving the answer to this. But there is no deadline for fellowships. That said, what I would definitely encourage people to do is to kind of keep in touch with your admissions representative and figure out when all of the available funding for a given department might have been awarded. Now, if you apply by a priority deadline, you ensure that you're considered for the maximum pool of funding. Again, that's part of why we encourage people to apply by those deadlines. But let's say, you're applying for fall 2019 and you just know you can't get your application in until June, let's say. Have a conversation with me because a lot of it will be largely dependent upon who's already been admitted, what level of funding they've already been offered, and if they've accepted that offer or not. So this is subject to change if you apply later in a given cycle. So keep that in mind. But again, I'll reiterate this point. If you apply by the priority deadline for any given term, you will receive maximum consideration for both admission and funding.
Go ahead and take the next one. One student asked, CGU, do we have evening, weekend, I would imagine morning and afternoon classes as well, is probably what you're wondering. And so for our classes, I know we do understand that we do have students that are working professionals, and then we also have students that are straight out of undergraduate. And so a lot of our classes across the program, they do offer evening, they do offer morning classes and some weekend classes from what I understand.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it depends on the program. So like a prime example of this is the School of Educational Studies is very much catered towards working professionals. I also happen to be a doctoral student in the School of Ed. So most of those courses meet at either 4 p.m. or 7 p.m. But yeah, to Jeremy's point, we do occasionally offer weekend courses. We offer summer courses occasionally, and there are evening courses for certain programs. The Executive MBA is another example of that. So reach out to us. Ask us what the curriculum and course offerings looks like for your program.
And eventually when you guys get down to, you've been accepted, everything works out, you've deposited. And when you get in contact with the program coordinators within your program, a lot of times they're able to kind of give you a heads up on what classes are to come for the semester. And so that's what I always encourage my students to do, to reach out to the program coordinators. They should have that information for you. That way, you can work it out with your employer. Like, hey, I have to leave on this particular date a little earlier for my classes. That usually helps out a lot of students. All right, so we have, where are we at now?
Oh yeah, okay, this is a good one. Do international students need to take these GRE exams within America? Great question. No, most of the standardized tests, which would either, again, probably be the GRE, the GMAT, are offered in testing centers all over the world. So I would just look up that exam online and figure out where the closest testing center is to wherever you might be in the world. But yeah, no, you don't have to come here first to take the exam. You can take it wherever you are and then submit us those scores from there. Okay, so just again, looking at some of this, what are the educational requirements to apply? Do we need to have completed a bachelor's degree? Yeah, in almost every single circumstance, you would at least need to have a bachelor's degree to be eligible. This does change a little bit for international applicants, so I don't want to use it as a blanket statement, but certainly for domestic students, you would need to have completed a bachelor's program to at least be eligible for a master's program at CGU. But that's a totally fair question. And if you are one of those international students who has a different degree that is a post-secondary degree, talk to your admissions representative, or we can put you in touch with our international student services team and figure out if you do have the right academic background to be eligible for CGU. Okay, more great questions coming in. Do we need to still request official transcripts from CGU over courses we took 2 years ago while attending one of their master's degree programs? If you are a past CGU student, you would still want to request from our registrar's office that the transcripts are sent. But again, work with your admissions representative. We might be able to go and speak with the registrar for you. So again, just let us know if that's your particular situation. Let's see. Oh, okay. So it's a question about the English proficiency exam. The person's originally from LA, completed degrees in Canada. Yeah, you would be fine. You would be exempt from the language requirements. That institution in Canada, we know, is an English-speaking institution. So
yeah, so if you guys are coming from English medium institutions, if you have a green card, a lot of times also you are exempt from the TOEFL as well.
Yeah. Oh, this is a great question, actually. In regard to the letters of recommendation, are there preferences for letters to be written by professors, academic resources, compared to employers or professional resources? I would say, depending on your program, ask your admissions representative, but more often than not at CGU, they're going to prefer to see academic references. The one exception or a couple exceptions to that might be the Drucker School of Management, or perhaps, CSAT, where you might have an IT background and you're looking to supplement that. There are combinations also of letters of recommendation. Maybe you send in 2 academic ones and then, one that's an employer, but it's an employer that's related to your academic field of research. So more often than not, lean towards trying to find an academic one, but work with your admissions representative to find out if there are exceptions to that would still be, adequate and acceptable for your program. All right. So yeah, we're getting more questions about financial aid, funding, things like that. So these are questions, if I'm being honest, that are better suited to the individual admissions representative for a given area. Funding packages aren't universal at Claremont. We have differential funding for different programs. Some programs do have a few full fellowships available. Some only have the partial tuition fellowships available. So it's going to very much depend on the program that you're interested in. So seek out your admissions representative, send them a quick email, just say, hey, I had some questions about what the funding structure looks like in your, for this particular program. They'll get right back to you and let you know what you might be eligible for and what the average funding package might look like in a given area. Okay, awesome. Let's see, we got a few more minutes here. So if anybody wants to get in some last questions, again, feel free here. Jeremy, what other questions do we typically get asked on these webinars?
Oh boy, I mean, everyone did a great job in really sending in some good questions. Oftentimes I hear the question, okay, what are the opportunities for me in terms of career placement, networking, all that good stuff? I say it's a combination between 2 parties on campus, and Dave, feel free to chime in on this one. I do believe that it's a collaboration between the faculty here at CGU and also our career development office. And so between those 2, they'll provide different opportunities. Career development, they can do everything from help you with resume, interview skills, your LinkedIn profile, to connect you with, opportunities for on-campus interviews, for companies who come on campus, conferences, seminars, and then the faculty can do the same, as well with connect you with alumni who are in different areas, companies, universities. If you want to teach, maybe there's some alumni from CGU who can assist you with that. And so I think it's a collaboration between these 2 parties. I know David may have some different experiences with his students, but that's generally what I tell my students. And those 2 parties do a great job in connecting you with future opportunities.
Yeah, I would just echo that point. I definitely think faculty are a huge resource in terms of helping students find those opportunities. And then the career development office is also an excellent opportunity. For Drucker students, you actually get 2 career development offices because the Drucker School of Management has their own staff in place to do that. So there's a lot of resources in place. Some other things we often get asked about in a similar way are like, what are the teaching assistantships or research assistantships that are available? Again, that's dependent on what a faculty member might need in a given semester and what the department has available. So it's always worth asking faculty members if those opportunities exist. Like Jeremy said, they're a huge resource for the students. So it's great practice if you do decide to come to CGU early on in the process to reach out to faculty members and ask about those things. So I know we just got a question about GPA requirements. Is there a minimum GPA requirement? This is actually a commonly asked question as well. Similar to the GRE or the GMAT or just standardized testing in general, it's holistic review. So there's no real minimum GPA requirement. If you're finding that listed out anywhere on our website, please let us know, because that's not exactly how it should be handled. It's holistic review. So even if your GPA is less than stellar from your undergraduate experience, but you've been doing a lot of things in the field now, or you went and got a master's degree, now you're at the PhD level, like, you don't have to worry about that. There are other things that you can submit in your application that could help you overcome what is a less than stellar GPA. So totally fair question though. And the simple answer is no, there's no minimum GPA.
You have a question about extra material and submitting it by the priority date. Nope. I mean, that's the secret about the CGU application. You know, you submit the online application first. Once again, that can take around 30 to 40 minutes. Once you hit submit, that is how you meet the deadline for that particular admission cycle, right? So the priority deadline is coming up in November. You submit your application, you're done at that point. You have met the deadline. Then after that, you can go ahead and submit letters, statement of purpose, your resume, CV, what have you, all of that stuff. And yeah, I don't like to stress about my recommendations. I completely understand. So yeah, just make sure that you submit the online application first, and then you can take some time about letters of recommendation and all the extra materials to come after that.
Yeah, and along those same lines, when you submit the online application, in that first initial step, you're going to type in the email addresses and contact information for your letter writers, or your referees. Basically, they'll get an email notification from the system letting them know, hey, submit your letter of recommendation for this person. And that's pretty much it. You can follow up with them after that, but same sort of thing. If their letter comes in after the priority deadline, no worries. The faculty here at CGU write these letters of recommendation for their students all the time, so they understand what that process looks like for their colleagues writing them for you. How long does the Master's in History program take? If you're enrolled full-time, it's a 2-year program. If you go part-time, it's probably closer to 3. That's an easy one to answer. Would there be an advantage to coming during spring, summer, or fall? That's a great question. I think for some programs there might be. So it would be worthwhile to ask your admissions representatives. For me personally, I can think of a prime example why somebody might want to start like the MFA program in art in the spring versus the fall. But that's very specific to somebody interested in art, so I'm not going to elaborate on that here. But I would say, you know, there are advantages to starting in any given term. I think kind of what Jeremy said at the start here, we have different start terms because we want to make this process as convenient and streamlined for you as possible. So if it makes sense with whatever's going on in your life to get started in summer instead of spring, take advantage of that. Utilize the fact that we have courses that start in the summer. But that, yeah, again, it's case by case in terms of the program. So ask your admissions representatives, but it's very much going to be not only dependent on the program, but also what's going on in your own personal life as well. So great questions though, everybody. We're pretty much at 1 o'clock here. So if there's any others, and it looks like, okay. Oh, this person's asking, can I submit the online application with the GRE score and then allow it to be sent? Yeah, same exact thing. You don't have to upload the GRE scores into the application. You can leave that part blank, and then we'll upload the scores after they arrive. We totally understand that would be the case. Yeah, that makes perfect sense. All right. Well, any final thoughts, Jeremy?
No, I think that this was great. Thank you guys. We had got a ton of questions, so that's wonderful. So thank you all for coming, and thank you for the thank yous on the chat. We're getting a lot of those right now. And so if you're looking for any other opportunities, once again, I have to plug the event for Fall Open House November 3rd. If you have any questions on how to sign up for that, please email me or David, and we can help you. We can help sign you up on the phone for that particular event. So outside of that particular event that's coming up, it's been a pleasure to interact with all you guys, and we hope to see your application soon enough. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to any of us.
Absolutely. And try to come to open house if you can. All right, everybody have a good afternoon or evening or whatever time it may be in your neck of the world.